The 71A pulls away from the curb, and you watch the city blur through rain-streaked glass. It's the kind of February cold that seeps through the bus windows, through the wet streets, through the 15 years you've been riding this same route home. You press your forehead against the glass. The point's three rivers merge in darkness below, and somewhere in that convergence is the exact moment you chose to stay. Not chose. Allowed. The apartment is on the third floor of a building that was supposed to be temporary. The radiator clanks to life as you unlock the door, the same metallic reading it's given you since 2010. You set your bag down in the same spot, hang your coat on the same hook. The kitchen light flickers once before it catches. You've been meaning to replace it for months, maybe years. Time has a way of softening urgency into habit. Your phone screen glows with unread messages. Work emails that can wait until morning. A text from your brother in Denver asking how you are. The weather app showing 3 more days of freezing rain. You fill the kettle. The water from the tap runs rust-colored for the first few seconds. Pittsburgh water, iron heavy, the taste of home whether you wanted it or not. There was a night, 17 years ago, when staying felt like the right thing. She'd called you from the hospital, her voice small and tired. Your father had fallen again. The doctors were talking about care options, about what happens next, about family. You had the bus ticket to Portland in your jacket pocket, the job offer printed and folded in your backpack. 25 years old and holding a one-way ticket to a different life. You remember standing in the Greyhound Station downtown, watching the departure board. Your bus was boarding. The pneumatic doors were hissing open. The station smelled like diesel and old coffee. Someone's suitcase wheel squeaked across the tile. The announcement voice was calling final boarding for Portland, with stops in Cleveland, Chicago, Minneapolis. You called her back. "I'm not going," you said. The relief in her silence was louder than anything she could have said. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you." You hung up, walked to the ticket counter, asked if you could get a refund. The woman behind the glass looked at you with something like pity. $40, she said. Cancellation fee. You took it. The kettle clicks off. You pour the water over a tea bag you've used twice already. Small economies that don't matter but persist anyway. Outside, the streetlight on Negley Avenue flickers in the same pattern it has for years. On, off, on, off. Someone should report it, you think. Someone always should. The apartment is quiet except for the radiator and the couple arguing upstairs. Their voices filter through the ceiling, muffled, rhythmic, familiar. You don't know their names, but you know the cadence of their fights. The way they always end with a door closing and then silence. You sit at the small table by the window. The city spreads out below, Shadyside dissolving into East Liberty, then Garfield, then the stretch toward Lawrenceville where the old mill stacks stand dark against the sky. Pittsburgh in winter is all gray gradients and amber streetlights, a study in staying power. Your father lived another 8 years. Your mother needed you for all of them, and then 3 years beyond that. When she finally passed last spring, you were there. You held her hand. You handled everything. You were there. The funeral was small. Your brother flew in, stayed 3 days, flew back to his life in Denver. You sorted through the house on Woodstock Avenue alone, room by room, drawer by drawer. A lifetime of objects that meant everything and nothing. You found the bus ticket, still in your old jacket pocket, hanging in the back of your childhood closet. The paper yellowed and soft with age. Portland, one way. March 15th, 2008. You stood there holding it for a long time. The job offer expired. Portland became a photograph you'd seen once, coffee shops and bridges and a life that belonged to someone else. You made peace with it, mostly. Told yourself it was the right choice. That family comes first. That some people are meant to stay rooted while others drift. But late at night, when the radiator hisses and the streetlight flickers and the city settles into its familiar sounds, you wonder. Sometimes you search your own name online just to see. Nothing much appears. A LinkedIn profile you haven't updated in 4 years. A 5K charity run from 2019. The shape of a life that stayed small and local and present. You drink the weak tea and watch the rain. The version of you that left, where is he now? Your phone buzzes, a notification from the dating app you keep deleting and re-downloading. Someone named Rachel liked your profile. Her pictures show a woman in her late 30s, smiling in front of places you don't recognize. Her bio mentions hiking, travel, looking for someone who knows what they want. You don't open it. The truth is, you don't know what you want. Or maybe you do, and it's just that what you want exists in a timeline you'll never access. In the drawer by the bed, there's a stack of old photographs your mother left you. You pull them out sometimes, not often. There's one of you at 25, standing on the porch of the house on Woodstock Avenue. Your father is in his chair behind you, and your face has this expression, caught between somewhere and here. You look young, not just younger. Young in a way that believed leaving was still possible. There's another photo beneath it, your college graduation. Your mother's hand on your shoulder. She's smiling, but there's already worry in her eyes. Your father's illness was just beginning then. Small signs, forgetting things, balance issues, the slow unraveling that would take years to complete. The problem with staying is that it becomes who you are. Not the worst version of yourself, not even an unhappy one. Just a version that calculates differently. A version that knows every pothole on Baum Boulevard, every shortcut through the Hill District, every place that closes early on Sundays. A version that stopped imagining elsewhere. The radiator hisses. You pull the blanket tighter. Tomorrow is Friday. The office will be half empty by 3. People with plans, with places to be. You'll probably stay until 5 out of habit, then stop at the Giant Eagle on Penn Avenue for groceries. The same rotation of meals, the same checkout lane. There's a comfort in it, you tell yourself. Knowing where everything is, never having to learn new streets or make new friends or explain yourself to strangers. But comfort isn't the same as contentment. Work tomorrow is the same work as yesterday, the same meetings in the same conference room with the fluorescent lights that hum just slightly off frequency. The same drive through the same traffic, the same parking garage, the same desk by the same window that looks out onto the same view of the Allegheny River. The river freezes in sections this time of year, ice forming in patterns along the banks. You watch it during meetings, the slow accumulation of winter. It's not bad work. It pays. It's steady. Steady. The word your mother used when you told her you'd taken the position. Steady work, steady income, a steady life in a city that knew you. She'd been so relieved. You could hear it in her voice. One less thing to worry about. Her son, close by, predictable, safe. You remember what your college roommate said when he visited 5 years ago. He lives in Austin now, works in something tech-adjacent, wears expensive sneakers. He looked around your apartment and nodded politely. "It's cozy," he said. Code for small, code for stuck, code for how did this happen to you? You didn't have an answer then. You don't now. The radiator clanks again, a sound like old bones settling. The building is nearly 100 years old, and sometimes you feel like you're aging with it. Each year adding another layer of familiarity, another reason not to leave. You finish the tea, rinse the mug, set it in the dish rack to dry. The dish rack is one of those things you've been meaning to replace. The plastic has gone brittle with age, cracking at the edges. But it works. It drains. It holds dishes. Good enough becomes a philosophy after a while. Outside, the 71A rumbles past again, heading back downtown. The late loop. The same route over and over until the city sleeps. You watch it disappear around the corner, red taillights dissolving into the rain. There's a McDonald's bag on the sidewalk, pressed flat by wet and wind. It's been there for 3 days. You've watched it slowly disintegrate, becoming part of the street, part of the landscape. Everything stays if you let it. If you'd left, if you'd stayed on that bus, Portland would have unfolded like a hand opening. You would have stepped off at the station with everything you owned in 2 bags. The rain would have been different rain. Lighter, softer, the kind that isn't quite mist and isn't quite water. The air would have smelled like cedar and coffee and ocean, not iron and old brick and coal dust that never quite washes away. The job was with a small firm that designed accessible housing. You would have worked late hours those first months, proving yourself, learning the city through its bones and structures. Your apartment would have been a studio in southeast Portland, small but yours, with a window that looked onto a street lined with food trucks and bicycles. The first morning, you would have woken to sounds you didn't recognize. Not the 71A grinding its gears, not the radiator's metallic clank, but birdsong and distant traffic and the rustle of cedar branches against the building. You would have made coffee in a French press instead of instant. Small rituals building toward a different kind of person. The firm would have been everything the job description promised. Small team, meaningful work, projects that made a difference. You would have designed housing for people with mobility challenges, veterans with PTSD, families who needed spaces that worked differently than conventional homes. Your boss would have been a woman named Patricia. Mid-50s, gray hair, expensive glasses. She would have seen something in you, not just competence, but care. The way you listened to clients. The way you thought about how people actually lived in spaces. You would have learned to ride the MAX train, memorized the stops, discovered which coffee shops opened early, which bars stayed quiet, which bridges were best for walking when you needed to think. The Burnside Bridge at dusk, the Hawthorne with its pedestrian traffic, the steel bridge where the Max crossed and you could watch the Willamette flow beneath you. Powell's books would have become your Saturday routine. Hours lost in the aisles, buying more than you could read, carrying them home in a canvas bag that said something about sustainability and choices. You would have made friends slowly. Not easily, but genuinely. People you met through work. Through the climbing gym you'd join that second year. Through the community garden plot you'd rent in Southeast. In this version, there is a woman named Claire. You would have met her at a community meeting about a park renovation project. She'd be sitting 2 rows ahead of you, taking notes in a small leather journal. Her hair pulled back, her jacket still damp from the rain outside. The meeting would be about accessibility features, ramps and pathways, and how to make public spaces work for everyone. You would have spoken up about sightlines and texture differences in pathways. She would have turned around to look at you. Afterward, you would have both reached for the same plate of cookies on the refreshment table. She would have smiled. You would have said something awkward about shared taste in snacks. "I'm Claire," she would have said, her handshake firm, her eyes direct. The kind of person who means what they say. And the timeline would have split. That version of you, she doesn't know about the radiator on Negley Avenue. She doesn't know about the 71A bus or the way Pittsburgh rain tastes like metal. She doesn't carry the weight of 8 years at your father's bedside, 3 more holding your mother's hand through the end. She is lighter. Not happier necessarily, but unburdened by the particular gravity of staying. She moves through the world differently, makes plans without the constant calculation of guilt and obligation, says yes to trips and adventures without thinking about who might need her, who might be alone. The first date would have been coffee, courier coffee on Stark Street. You would have arrived early, nervous, unsure if this was really a date or just 2 people who'd reached for the same cookies. But Claire would have ordered a latte and sat across from you and asked real questions. Not small talk. Real questions about what you cared about, what brought you to Portland, what you were afraid of. Then a walk along the Willamette, then dinner at a small Thai place in Southeast where the owner knew everyone by name. Claire would have ordered in Thai, laughing when she got the tones wrong, and the owner would have corrected her gently. She would have told you about growing up in Eugene, about studying landscape architecture, about the year she spent in Barcelona, and how she still dreamed in Spanish sometimes. About her father who died when she was 20, and how she understood what it meant to carry that weight. You would have told her about Pittsburgh, about your family, about the choice you almost made. "I'm glad you didn't," she would have said, and you would have believed her. The relationship would have built slowly, Saturday coffee becoming Saturday coffee and Sunday brunch. Movie nights at her apartment in Selwood. Meeting her friends who would welcome you with the easy warmth of people who trust Claire's judgment. In the alternate apartment, her apartment, your shared apartment, there would be plants on the windowsill. Actual living plants, not the brown stalks you keep meaning to throw away. Ferns and pothos, and a fiddle-leaf fig that Claire would fuss over like a child. The kind of space where people build small rituals. Saturday farmers markets, Sunday morning runs along the Willamette, Tuesday trivia at the pub on Division Street. You would have learned to cook together, real cooking, not reheating. She would have taught you about spices and timing, and how to trust your instincts instead of following recipes exactly. Her specialty would have been soups. She would have made them in a big pot on Sundays, filling the apartment with the smell of garlic and ginger and whatever vegetables were in season. There would have been friends, real friends, not just work acquaintances you see at the occasional happy hour. People who came over for dinner parties, who invited you to their kids' birthday parties, who built a community around you until you couldn't imagine living anywhere else. Marcus and Jen, David and Sarah, the couple from upstairs whose names were Tom and something. You'd always forget, and Claire would remind you, laughing. You would have proposed on a hiking trail near Mount Hood. Something simple, a question asked at a viewpoint with the mountains witnessing. The trail would have been her favorite, a moderate climb through Douglas fir and western hemlock, the kind of hike where you could talk the whole way up, where the beauty revealed itself gradually rather than all at once. At the top, with the mountain massive and ancient before you, you would have knelt. "Will you marry me?" She would have said yes before you finished the question. The wedding would have been small. Her family and the friends you'd made in Portland, a chosen family, the kind you build when you're far from where you started. Your brother would have flown in from Denver. Your mother wouldn't have been able to travel, but you would have called her after, and she would have cried and said she was happy for you, and some part of you would have believed her. But there would have been sadness, too. She would have asked when you were coming home, when she'd get to meet Claire, when you'd visit. "Soon," you would have said. "Soon, Mom." The years would have accumulated differently. Not a corner apartment in Shadyside with a broken kitchen light, but a small house in a neighborhood with tree-lined streets. You would have bought it together, a fixer-upper in a neighborhood that was still affordable. Spent weekends painting and repairing and learning how to be homeowners. Not the 71A bus, but a bike you'd ride to work most mornings. Through neighborhoods you'd learned by heart. Past coffee shops where baristas knew your order. Not silence, but the sound of someone else moving through the rooms. Coffee brewing, shower running. The small confirmations of not being alone. Claire humming while she cooked. Her laugh on the phone with her sister. The particular sound of her footsteps on the stairs. If you'd left, there would be children. 2 of them maybe. A boy and a girl, or 2 boys or 2 girls. The details shift depending on the night, depending on how much you let yourself imagine. They would have Claire's curiosity and your quietness. They would grow up in a place where mountains are visible from the backyard, where rain is a constant companion, where back east is a place their father came from but doesn't talk about much. The oldest would ask questions, lots of questions. Why did you leave Pittsburgh? Don't you miss your family? Why don't we visit more? You would struggle to answer honestly. You would be a different kind of tired. Not the fatigue of fluorescent lights and the same commute and small economies that don't matter, but the exhaustion of school pickups and soccer practices and homework help and the endless negotiations of family life. A tired that means something. Mornings would be chaos, lunches packed in a hurry, backpacks searched for permission slips, the rush to get everyone out the door on time. But there would also be bedtime stories, goodnight kisses, the weight of a small hand in yours as you crossed the street. Your daughter would hold your hand until she was 8. Your son would stop at 6. You would miss it both times. At night, in that other bedroom, in that other house, Claire would fall asleep with her hand on your chest. The rain would tap against the windows. Portland rain, gentle and persistent. You would lie there and think about Pittsburgh sometimes, about the life you left behind, about your mother alone in the house on Woodstock Avenue. Guilt would visit you in those quiet moments. The question of whether you'd made the right choice, whether she'd been okay, whether your father's last years had been harder without you there. Your brother would call with updates, the doctors, the decline, the decisions that needed making. You would offer to come home. He would say it wasn't necessary, that he had it handled, but you wouldn't go back. That version of you made the other choice, and in choosing, became someone else entirely. Someone who built instead of maintained. Someone who left instead of stayed. Someone who loved without the constant weight of obligation pressing down on every decision. Someone who carried different guilts, different regrets, different midnight calculations about whether you'd done enough. The tea has gone cold. You set the mug in the sink with the others. 3 days of dishes waiting for a motivation that hasn't arrived yet. Your phone buzzes again. Rachel from the dating app has sent a message. Hey, I saw you like cycling. Ever ride the trails out in Frick Park? You stare at the notification. She seems nice, normal. The kind of person who expects you to have hobbies, opinions about trails, plans for the weekend that extend beyond laundry and groceries. You type, sometimes, been a while. Delete it. Type, yeah, the trails are great. Delete that too. The cursor blinks, waiting, expecting something. Eventually, you just close the app. The truth is harder than admitting you don't cycle much anymore. The truth is that you're not sure you have the energy to explain yourself to someone new. To walk through the story of why you stayed, why you're still here, Why at 42 you live alone in a third-floor apartment that was supposed to be temporary. To explain that you're not broken exactly, just worn in ways that don't show up in profile pictures. Outside, the argument upstairs has ended. The building settles into its nighttime sounds, the radiator's rhythm, the distant hum of the refrigerator, the wind against the window frames. Someone walks past on the sidewalk below. You hear the footsteps, the slight scrape of a shoe on wet concrete. Then silence again. You think about the version of you in Portland. Maybe he's putting his kids to bed right now, reading a story, kissing foreheads, turning off the light. Maybe he's sitting on the porch with Claire, watching the rain, talking about their day in the easy shorthand of people who've built a language together. Maybe he's happy. Maybe he wonders sometimes about the version that stayed, about the mother he left behind, about the father who died without him there, about the weight of choices made and unmade. But probably not. Probably he's too busy living to spend much time wondering about the life he didn't choose. Probably he's learned to let it go. The truth is simpler and harder than wondering. You stayed because someone needed you. And then you stayed because staying was what you knew. And then you stayed because leaving had become impossible. Not logistically, but existentially. The roots had grown too deep, the patterns too worn, the inertia too comfortable. Pittsburgh doesn't let go easily. The city has a way of holding on to people, not cruelly, just firmly, like a hand on your shoulder that never quite lifts. You've thought about leaving, even looked at job postings in other cities. But the idea feels abstract now, theoretical, like reading about a life rather than living one. You walk to the window and look out at the city, the streetlights still flickering, the wet pavement reflecting amber. Somewhere, a bus rounds the corner, headlights cutting through the rain. The point is dark now, the three rivers invisible except for the lights along their banks. Somewhere down there is the Greyhound Station, the departure board, the doors that hiss open and closed over and over, carrying people to lives they chose instead of lives they allowed. You wonder if anyone looks at those boards the way you did. If anyone else stands there holding a ticket and a phone and a choice. If anyone else walks away. The version of you that left is living a life you'll never know, making choices you'll never make, building a world that exists only in the space between what happened and what nearly did. And you're here. In the apartment that was supposed to be temporary, in the city that raised you and kept you and shaped you into someone who stays. There's no moral to this, no lesson about paths not taken or grass being greener or everything happening for a reason. There's just this, the radiator's warmth, the rain against glass, the weight of a life chosen by small degrees rather than grand decisions. You turn off the kitchen light. The apartment falls into darkness except for the glow from the streetlight outside, filtering through the window, casting the same shadows it always has. The shadows of a coat on its hook, a bag in its spot, a life in its patterns. Tomorrow you'll ride the 71A again, and the day after, and all the days that follow. And somewhere, in a house in Portland that doesn't exist, another version of you will do the same. Different roots, different rain, different shadows on different walls. But tonight, there's only this. The radiator settling into its evening rhythm, the rain finding its way down the window, the flickering light on Negley Avenue marking time. You stand at the window a moment longer, watching the city breathe in the dark. The sound of staying, the weight of 17 years, the gentle ache of knowing exactly where you are.